as we speak. But let's shift focus, talk about Asian Paints. And they've partially resumed their operations. They're looking at launching a completely new category. Hand sanitizers is what Asian Paints is getting into. So a lot of talking points. Let's welcome on board a very special guest, Amit Syngle, the MD and CEO at Asian Paints, joining in on the show right now. Amit, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. Thanks so much for taking the time out and speaking with us today, Amit. Hope you're staying safe and staying home.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting. And yes, we are taking all the precautions, working from home, but really active into the business.
Oh, yeah, long hours, isn't it? So tell us about this new category, sanitizers, and what exactly was the rationale behind this kind of a brand extension? I mean, we understand hand sanitizers, and for that matter, anything to do with health and hygiene is really the need of the hour. But this kind of a diversification for Asian Paints is a first.
Okay, great. See, we have always been a responsible and a caring brand. And we've always thought that as part of that, we would be always with initiatives which are with the government, with the communities, and whatever we can do to bring joy to people's lives. As part of this, we got a lot of persuasion from the Ministries of Health and Ministry of Chemicals in terms of what way we can join forces with the government to really come and help them in this fighting of the COVID-19 battle which was going on. And for that purpose, we thought today Asian Paints already has a health and hygiene portfolio. And we thought it would be a good idea to add the range of sanitizers to it, both the surface and the hand sanitizers under the ViroProtect brand name. And that is something which was the entire motivation in terms of getting in this so that we can really help the government, really help the communities, and also add to our entire health and hygiene range.
Sure. But how easy synergistically is it for you? I mean, are there any common raw materials? Does it give you any sort of cost advantage?
So this is actually the synergy is not very, very great, I would say, because from the point of view of some raw materials, yes, definitely are in common, but more than the raw materials, the entire manufacturing precautions, permissions in terms of what you need to kind of take is something which is very, very different. You need to kind of get into an FDA approval, and you have to get into a lot of permissions which possibly as a responsible corporate you need to take because you're making this in your own plants. Over and above, you have a huge responsibility in delivering a certain quality to the customer. And that is why we feel that it was not easy, but I think a lot of effort has gone within the company to kind of really come up to this challenge, stand by the government, and enter into this range to that extent. To that extent, some raw materials are common, but I would say that the whole journey has been really tough. But I am quite happy that we are able to enter this space, and already we are into good manufacturing, which has taken place in the last 3 days of the product.
Okay. Mrs. Syngle, what's the plan for costing and distributing the sanitizers as well? If you could just touch upon that, and then we'll talk about how operations have been impacted as well under COVID.
As far as the costing is concerned, the government has already fixed the prices of the sanitizers in terms of what are the prices which you can sell the sanitizers at. So therefore, we are going with that costing which is prevalent there. At the moment, we are not looking too much in terms of saying how our input costs measure to kind of give that kind of a cost, because the purpose is really looking at helping the government and getting into a lot of material which we can come in the market and help not only the government but also the NGOs. We are also looking at a separate distribution system because our current distribution doesn't really augur well with this category, and therefore we are looking at a separate distribution system which is coming up so that we are able to supply to a different segment of shops which are able to sell it. At the same time, this distribution system is able to cater to the government, the NGOs, and the hospitals as well.
Okay, fantastic. Let's talk about how operations have been impacted. You know, we've been waiting for a chance to speak to you in detail about this. And now that we're starting to see some partial lifting of the lockdown, are you already seeing any kind of, uptick on the back of that? Do you still think it'll be some time before we actually see a proper resumption in demand?
We have opened up our plants, partially, starting for the last 2 days. And initially, the entire focus is towards looking at cleaning the plants and sanitizing the plants and appropriating all safe practices so that the people who are entering are absolutely safe. Okay, so we are taking care of all the people, all the employees, all the off-road people who are entering into the plant so that we are able to offer a safe and comfortable working environment so that there are no anxieties which are there with the people. As we see it, the first 2 days have been fairly encouraging. We have been able to open a lot of our warehouses across the country. And the first 2 days have been pretty encouraging in terms of the latent demand which has been there in the segment. And today, as we kind of go ahead, we'll have to really watch cautiously in terms of how the entire demand scenario goes, because overall, we are still kind of cautious in terms of how it will go. But having said that, the first 2 days have been pretty encouraging in terms of how we have been able to cater to the market and the kind of demand which is coming from the shops.
What is your understanding of the way how cash flows for Asian Paints are likely to move? Because ground activity is not happening. Dealers currently will find it difficult to really give back cash to you. Do you see a stress for a company like Asian Paints, which generates a lot of cash, which is a zero debt company, great return ratios? Could things really get jammed or choked for a couple of quarters?
Looking at our cash flows very, very stringently and looked at a lot of cost preservation measures. We've also done very, very stringent cost control measures within the company in terms of whatever work we are doing. We have also extended a new credit line to our retailers, okay, so that we are able to help them get into the business and ease out in the business easily. At this moment, we are also talking to our vendors and suppliers and see in terms of that we can carve out some mutually agreeable good terms in terms of buying raw materials and buying packaging materials and so on and so forth. Overall, we see that the cash flow position is quite comfortable at Asian Paints, and we feel that for the coming 3 to 4 months, we should be fairly comfortable, even if we were to kind of do a little bit of a business, not to the extent we would have done in a normal situation.
How do you see the consumer appetite for home decorative segment change? Some would argue that home decorative sector is a function of disposable income and necessity. Necessity can be delayed in home decoration, and consumer appetite from, let's say, an emulsion paint could come to a lower category of paint. How do you see trends changing for Asian Paints purely because of the change in consumer behavior?
So there are definitely going to be some changes as we feel that going ahead, there is going to be a little bit of a strain on the discretionary spends in terms of what consumer would look at. We also feel that there would be an orientation going for a value for money kind of an expectation coming from the customers in a very, very strong way. And also what we feel that there could be a stress coming in because of the new construction not happening, and therefore a larger focus with respect to the repainting segment, which would kind of come in to that extent largely. We are launching a lot of initiatives to kind of really get the consumers and let them assure what we are doing. So we have a safe painting package which we have introduced so that we are able to assure our customers that they are getting into a very, very safe zone and there is no potential anxiety which they should get in terms of getting painters home and getting the entire house painted and so on and so forth. We are also looking at a sanitization service, which we are launching in line with our new foray of getting into sanitizers, which would kind of ensure that we are able to assure our customers a good sanitized and disinfected home as and when the painting is happening. So overall, what we see that yes, the changing and buying patterns are going to change a lot as we kind of go ahead. But we are watching the environment very, very carefully in terms of what are the actual changes which take place as we look at future.
When I speak to some of your long-term shareholders, I know some folks who've been owning your stocks for 15, 17 years now, and they're very happy. They're telling me that Asian Paints currently is in a great situation because of decline in crude, and it's going to be a clear beneficiary because of decline in raw material cost. You have this huge lever which a lot of companies don't have because of decline in crude. How are you planning to monetize it and maximize on it? Will it be a pass-through, or that huge lever which you will get because of drop in oil or pigment or oil derivatives that's going to be used for cost-cutting efficiencies?
So there are two things happening. Yes, you're right. The crude prices have fallen more than 60%, and a lot of crude derivatives have also gone down with respect to pricing. At the same time, we have also seen the rupee weaken a lot against the dollar, and we have a lot of raw materials which are imported today into the country. So we see some bit of a balancing happening with the rupee going up. At the same time, there is going to be a good advantage which would come into solvent-based paints, which are going to be there because they are largely based on mineral turpentine oil, which will definitely get the advantage of the crude coming down. But at the same time, a large part of our portfolio is water-based paints where the crude derivatives percentages are small. So we feel that in terms of the overall impact, it might not be a very big kind of a windfall which might come in terms of the raw material prices as a whole for the company going really down. Yes, for the solvent-based paints and the industrial paints, it would definitely offer some advantage in terms of going ahead. We are watching this position because the volatility in the market is pretty high. Depending on how this stabilizes, we will look at in terms of what call we need to take in terms of certain categories of paint. And largely as we see it, we would look at basically passing on this advantage to the customer.
My last question would be that the Asian Paints I know of has rarely diversified. It's been a market leader, dominates more than 50% market share in the decorative segment. Your return ratios have been fantastic. You know, in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, a lot of FMCG company diversified. You remained a mono-product company. The need to diversify in the sanitizer space, some would argue that why? Why would you go away from your core when this is a competitive business and where your distribution network would be separate? The same dealer who will sell a sanitizer may not be selling paint. You'll have to create a new distribution line, a new production line, a new advertising line. Is it worth the effort?
So one of the core, principles of Asian Paints has been bringing joy and happiness to consumer lives. We have been appropriating home for a very, very strong time. And we have Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai as an emotional tag, which we see that the relationship of the customers with homes have been very, very strong. So we have been doing everything in the space of home very strongly. We also felt that having entered the health and hygiene category, we have a product called the Royal Health Shield, which goes in homes, which is an antibacterial paint, which assures customers that we are able to deal with the bacteria within the home and able to kind of give them a good health and hygiene kind of a living within the home. So we felt that stepping into this zone gave us a double advantage. One, we were able to kind of really help the government in terms of seeing what we can do in terms of fighting this COVID-19 battle. At the second time, we felt this was very much in the home space as well, where we are able to offer customers peace of mind in terms of their homes getting disinfected, offering a very safe painting experience. And we feel that going forward, we would like to kind of add more products into this portfolio because this is very much in the home space, giving peace and happiness to the customer.
But it's been such a candid chat that I really appreciate it, and I really hope that we get to interact much more on the channel. So looking forward to our interactions. Stay safe, and thank you for really frankly and beautifully articulating your thought behind why you want to move into the sanitizer category. Let's take a break. We've recovered, yes. Nifty is back in the green. Hello, 92.19. So we started off late and weak, but now we are recovering. Now, is this recovery real, or this is one of those recovery which would be sold into? Let's see. But for the moment, the good news is that it's a rub of green on the screen.